Okay, ji, Assalamu alaikum. So I'm going to start off with Maiden Down 23, paper 1 2. That is your variant. You need to understand that the value for acceleration will be 9.8 meters per second square. Whenever you're doing calculations, please make sure it is 9.8 meters per second square, 9.8 newtons per kilogram. Okay, that's one thing that has changed recently. It says in an experiment, a ball is rolled down a curved track that is about half a meter long. That is less than 1 meter. Less than 1 meter is a meter rule. But because it's a curved track, I'm not going to use a meter rule. I'm going to use a tape measure because tape measure can bend around objects, right? Which row describes acceleration, displacement, distance, and speed? So acceleration is I know for a fact vector. Displacement is vector. Distance is scalar. Speed is scalar. So vector, vector, and scalar, scalar. So my answer is D. It says what is the size of the resultant forces shown? And now this is out of our course. This is parallelogram law of acceleration. That is not in our course anymore. Now you see the curved line and distance line graph shows the motion of a toy car. The straight line is the tangent to the curve. Now tangent to the curve would actually find out the gradient. And the gradient for a distance line graph is going to be the speed because you have on the y-axis you have distance that is measured in meters and on the x-axis you have time which is measured in seconds. So gradient is changed by upon change in x, which is distance upon time, which is speed. What is the speed of the toy car at 10 seconds? Now, you'll have to pick up on the tangent, pick up 2 points and find out the gradient. So I guess this is 1 point. I'm going to take 10 and 6, 10 on the x-axis, 6 on the y-axis. And you can take the intercept. I guess it's going to be 0 on the x-axis and 3 on the y-axis. So gradient is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's 3 minus 6 over 0 minus 10. That's going to be minus 3 over 10. And that is going to be minus 2 over minus 10. That's going to be 0.3. So my answer is A. Next is question number 5. Which is the diagonal four balances W, X, Y, and Z. The scales of all balances are calibrated on the Earth to measure mass. So by calibration means they've already factored in the value for gravity on every division that they mark on the scale of the uh, um, measuring instrument. Which balance also measures mass correctly when used on the moon? That is going to be mass on the moon. वो कैसे निकालेंगे sir? I guess it's going to be D, Y, and Z. So the beam balance and the two-pan balance helps you in finding out the mass anyway. Why? Because you see gravitational pull is going to act here as well, and the gravitational pull is going to act on both these places as well. So this is where gravity acts. So it becomes easier to measure mass on the moon. Why? Because the gravity on the moon is lower than the gravity on the Earth. This tells us that these two balances would be perfectly used to measure mass. Next is question number 6. It says a spacecraft carries a probe to Mars where the gravitational field strength is 3.97. The weight of the probe is 370 newtons. Okay. If the gravity is 3.7 newtons per kilogram and the weight is 370 newtons, I want you to first find out the mass, the mass of the probe. The mass of the probe is going to be W equals to mg. W equals to mg. The weight is 370. The mass is unknown times gravity is 3.7. Mass is 370 over 3.7. That's going to be 100 grams, kilograms. It's going to be kilograms. 3700, sorry, 370 divided by 3.7. It's going to be 100 kilograms. The mass of the probe is 100 kilograms. The gravitational field on the Earth is 9.8 newtons per kilogram. What is the mass and weight of the probe on Earth? Now, the mass has to be the same whether it is on Mars or on Earth. So, mass has to be 100. So, C and D could not be my answer. Now, the weight on Earth is again mass into gravity. The gravitational field on Earth has changed. The mass stays 100. The gravity on Earth is 9.8. 9.8 into 100 makes it 980. The weight on Earth is 980 newtons, and that is going to be my answer, which is B. 7. A student measures the density of a liquid. Which equipment is the student use? To find out the density, you have to first find out the mass separately and volume separately. You find out mass through a balance, pan balance, a beam balance, and volume is through measuring cylinders or beakers, right? So let's see what our answers could be. So a balance and a ruler, I don't need a ruler, so A is not the answer. Because ruler measures length. Next is a balance and a measuring cylinder. I guess I'm going to stick with 7B. A balance measures mass and the measuring cylinder measures volume. Newton's third law describes a pair of forces. Now, Newton's third law is if body A exerts a force on body B, then body B also exerts an opposite and equal force on body A, which shows whether the two forces are of the same type and whether they act on the same object. So, my answer to 8 is the types of forces in the pair are same. So, A and B could not be the answer. Then, the objects that they act on different objects in opposite directions, right? Which is why I'm going to stick to part C. So, body A exerts a force on body B, then body B also exerts an equal and opposite force. So, there are two different objects, which is why C is the answer. Next is the stopping distance of a car. Now, stopping distance is actually thinking distance plus braking distance. So, it's thinking distance plus braking distance. It says which factors affect the braking distance? I guess it's the speed of the car. Yes. So D could not be the answer. Speed of the car definitely affects your braking distance. The tiredness of the driver, do you think brake करने में tiredness of the driver की का point होगा? I don't think so. Why? Because once you've applied the brake, the amount of force you apply to the brake could be a factor, but the tiredness of the driver cannot be a factor for braking distance. However, the tiredness of driver can be a factor for thinking distance. The reaction time ज़्यादा लग जाता है because either you're too tired or you're too drunk to focus. And when you lose your focus, you will not be able to react within time. That is why this should. So now I'm left with these also cancelled out. So it's either A or C. It says condition of the road. Yes, condition of the road affects the braking distance because if you are braking on a wet, slippery slope, then slippery surfaces, your braking distance is going to be longer. Why? Because the car was skid. This is why C is the answer. Now, the extension load graph, you always should understand that the graph after the limit of proportionality always curves towards the extension axis. It will always curve towards the extension axis. So, extension here in this case is on the x-axis. Now, it says which point is the limit of proportionality? It is the point after which this curve starts to bend. So, it's Q. And what is the spring constant for this spring equal to now? Spring constant, F equals to KE, where K is the spring constant, the constant of proportionality or spring constant in this chapter, right? The spring constant is F upon E. Where F, if you focus, F is on the y-axis and E extension is on the x-axis. And y-axis and x-axis, change in y upon change in x is actually the gradient, right? So the spring constant is going to be the gradient of the curve from P to Q. Because Q to R, the Hooke's law is no more applied. So a limit of proportionality is Q, and the gradient of PQ is going to be the spring constant. That's 10A. A uniform beam is pivoted. Now, you need to understand that this is distance and this is force. You need to always look at this pivot. If the pivot is to the right of the object, it creates an anti-clockwise moment, right? It's going to turn it in an anti-clockwise moment. It says which force and position balances the system. Sir, I guess I'll have to make sure that F1 D1 equals to F2 D2, which is the anti-clockwise moment be equal to clockwise moment, right? Let's talk about part A. It says 20 newtons acting downwards, 40 centimeters to the right of the pivot. So let's place, this is A, let's say this is object A. It's 20 newtons acting downwards, yes, and it's 40 centimeters to the right. Let's find out the moment, the anti-clockwise moment first, which is force into distance, which is 40 into 20, which is 800. Right? 800 Newton meters is the actual moment that you have to counter, right? Sorry. It's 800 Newton meters. Now you need to understand the product of any of these parts B, C, and D should always and always be equal to 800 Newton meters for the ledge to become, for the ruler to become, or whatever it is, I guess, uniform beam, the beam to be in equilibrium, the anti-clockwise moment should always be equal to clockwise moment. I guess I'm going to stick to A. Why? Because 20 into 40 on the right makes it 800 Newton meters clockwise as well. Newton centimeters, sorry, my bad. Now, why is B not the answer? It's 20 newtons acting upward. Now you need to understand, if I place the beam like this, and if I this is the pivot, and this is the object that was already given to you. This is 40 newtons and this is 20 centimeters. You need to understand it says for 40 centimeters to the right of the pivot. Yes, but the force is upwards. Now you need to understand this also is going to create an anti-clockwise moment, and this also is going to create an anti-clockwise moment. So you won't be able to balance. Instead, if you place a force on the place an object on the right that exerts a force upwards, then you need to understand that this object will increase your anti-clockwise moment. And this cannot be an object, sorry, it could be a string that um, pulls the beam up. Okay. Now let's talk about why C could not be the answer. It says 15 newtons acting downwards and 10 centimeter to the left. So if I place, this is my beam. I just remember myself. This is my beam. There's already a force that's acting downwards, 40 newtons to the left of the pivot. This is already creating an anti-clockwise moment. If I place another weight that is creating a 50 newton force, that's also going to add up to my anti-clockwise moment. Which is why C is not the answer. The 50 newtons acting upwards 10 centimeters to the left of the pivot, that's again going to be uh, that's again going to be adding to anti-clockwise moment. So which is why D is also not the answer. Okay. Next is question number 12. A worker pulls a rope with a force P through a distance D in the direction of the force shown. This causes the block of weight W to move vertically upwards to height H. Okay. How much work is done by the worker? Work done is force into distance. It's force into distance. The answer is going to be the force applied by the worker. That's P, I guess. The worker pulls the rope with force P times the distance that the rope has moved because of the force applied by the worker. That's going to be D. So work done for by the worker is P into D. My answer is B. Next is a battery is connected in circuit to light a lamp. What is the energy stored in the battery? It's chemical energy that's stored in the battery. Okay. What is the property of both liquids and gases? They always fill the containers. I don't think so. Gas fills the container because you can't most of the time the gases are invisible. They're incompressible. Yes, liquids are incompressible, but gases are compressible. They can flow. Yes, they're both fluid. So I guess I'm going to stick to 14C. They have particles in fixed position. Neither liquids nor gases will have particles in fixed position. Now, in an experiment, the volume of a gas, volume is space occupied by a state of matter. In a cylinder is measured by the pressure as the pressure of the gas is increased. And now, if the pressure is increasing, you need to understand that the piston will be pushed to the left. To the left, why? Because this space that you have is going to reduce. You will have more molecules per unit area, right? Anyway, the volume, the tables are shown. So it's 1 into 10 power 5, increased to 2 into 10 power 5, increased to 3 to 10 power 5, increased to 4 to 10 power 5. Then the volume, if you look at the volume is from 20 to 10, then 10 to 6, and then 6 to 4. I guess this is defining pressure is inversely proportional to volume. So the greater the volume, the lesser the pressure. The smaller the volume, the smaller the space occupied, the greater the pressure. What is the possible explanation of these results? I guess if the pressure, it says, this is question number 15, it says, after the pressure is doubled, gas starts to leak into the cylinder? No. After the pressure is doubled, gas starts leaking out of the cylinder. I guess, yes. The temperature of gas is constant. There is no mention of the temperature of gas in this question, right? There is no indication in the question, so I'm going to cancel this out. What about D? The temperature of gas is increasing. The temperature of gas will only increase if you put down a heating source. So I'm going to stick to B, which says after the pressure is doubled, the gas starts leaking out of the cylinder. Why? Because it has lesser space available to move out. Understood? It says the diagram shows examples of thermal expansion, expansion in liquid thermometers, and expansion of a tight laden glass container and beams, right? In which diagrams is thermal expansion useful? So it is useful in P, definitely. It is useful in Q because if the lid is very tight, you can put on a hair dryer, it's going to blow out warm air and the lid expands and we can screw it open, right? Now, what if in R the metal beams are exposed to heat? They will start expanding. Because they have a free end on rollers, they're going to probably fall down. Okay. Or even if they don't fall down and they start to expand, the beams would then go and barge into the wall. So I guess uh, thermal expansion is useful in P and Q. D is the answer. Which statement about copper explains why it is a better thermal conductor than glass? Now, you need to understand that copper is a metal and glass is an insulator. For metals, every object on the surface of the earth is a conductor. The molecules vibrate about their fixed positions, yes, but some are better conductors and some are poor conductors. And poor conductors are what you call insulators. Now, you need to understand that the wood also burns. It also conducts electricity, provides conducts heat, provides the passage for heat particles to move through. It also burns, but it burns at a much slower rate than copper. Why? Because copper has free electrons in their outermost shell. So if you look at the answers, atomic vibration is fast. That happens in both copper and glass. So this could not be the answer. Atoms move through copper and gas. Atoms don't move. They vibrate about their fixed position. The density changes within the copper? No. Why? Because copper is a solid. Density changes for convection, which is for liquids and gases. There are free electrons in copper. 17D is the answer. 18. It says, which statement describes the transfer of thermal energy in a liquid by convection? Whenever we talk about convection, it has to be a density difference, right? It has to be due to density differences. And objects closer to the, sorry, molecules closer to the heating source, they gain heat energy, become less dense and rise, pushing the cooler molecules towards the heating source, which then again gain heat energy, become less dense and rise, creating a cyclical movement called convection current, right? It says, which statement describes the transfer of thermal energy in liquid by convection? Let's see which of these define the best, give us the best definition for convection. A decrease in density, become less dense, yes, and cause the heated liquids to rise. So I guess 18A is my answer. Why is B not the answer? We don't talk about electrons when we talk about convection because transfer of energy through electrons is only in metals, specifically in metals, right? So B is not the answer. Infrared radiation, this is radiation. Particles in liquid vibrate. Yes, they do and pass energy to neighboring particles. No, they have enough space to move around. Which is why convection is one of the methods that helps you understand that heat is transferred in liquids and gases through convection current. 19. Which characteristics describe the image formed by a plane mirror? So it is virtual. Why? Because it is formed behind the mirror. Because even if you get close to the mirror and touch your nose on the mirror, you won't be able to feel anything. Why? Because the image is not there. It is not captured on screen. It is behind the screen. So it is virtual. The image is the same size as the object. The image is upright. It's not inverted. It's not inverted, but it is laterally inverted. You need to understand what laterally inverted means. Laterally inverted means left becomes right and vice versa. By inversion, there are two types of inversion. Vertical inversion, where north becomes south, when the top becomes the bottom, bottom becomes the top. And you have lateral inversion, that is horizontal inversion, that is left becomes right, right becomes left. So it is virtual and upright. So which is why A could not be the answer. सी रियल नहीं होती डी वर्चुअल होती है smaller than the object. No, if you look at yourself into the mirror, you won't appear to be smaller, you will appear to be the same size. Now question number 20, you need to understand, you need to draw a normal to find out the angle of incidence and the angle of refraction. So the angle of incidence is 90 minus 35, which is I guess 55, and the angle of refraction is 30 degrees. So I guess this is going to be the denser material. Why denser medium? Why? Because light is finding it difficult to move through. So molecules are close together. That is why this is denser. Now it says a light wave passes into a block. This means this is the second medium, and you have four formulas for refractive index. Now refractive index for second medium is sin I over sin R. Refractive index for first medium is sin r over sin I. Refractive index for critical angle is 1 over sin c. And refractive index for velocity of light in different medium is c over v, where c is the speed of light in vacuum, that's 3 to 10 power 8, upon v, which is the speed of light in a particular medium. Now it says refractive index to transparent material, that's the second medium. So I'm going to apply sin I over sin r. This is the symbol for refractive index. It's sine of 55 over sine of 30. I'm going to calculate it and give you the answer. That's going to be 1.64 sine 55 divided by, just give me a minute, sine 30. That's going to be 1.638, which is 1.64. Now, it says the diagram shows the light incident in a straight edge. Now, you need to understand always, मैं अभी question नहीं पढ़ा रहा, I'm just asking you, when the light enters perpendicularly, when the light is incident perpendicularly onto the surface of a material, it does not bend. It just does not, it goes undeviated. Now it says the diagram shows light incident on the straight edge of a semicircular glass after passing through it, which diagram shows refraction and the angle I equal to the critical angle. Now critical angle का diagram, as far as I remember, मुझे तो ये याद आता है देखो. This is the normal, and the refracted ray travels along the plane. This is how it travels. This is where it enters perpendicularly. So A is not the answer. Definitely B is not the answer because B में normal bending हो रहा है. Now let's talk about C. I guess my answer is C. You need to understand it does not bend here. Why? Because the light ray enters perpendicularly here. So 21 is C. Very good. 22. Which radioactive isotope can be used to measure used for measuring cracks or flaws in metal components? Now you need to understand cracks and flaws in metal components. You can use a radioactive source with a higher half-life. Half-life is the amount of time it takes for the count rate to drop down to half of its previous value. For a nuclide to decay to half of their previous value, right? So my answer to 22B, before I make the answer, it has to be penetrative. Now, which of the three radiations is most penetrative? I guess it's gamma that is most penetrative, right? And if we talk about gamma, this is alpha emitter. It only goes up to 5 centimeters in air. So I'm not going to choose this. Let's talk about B. Gamma emitter, yes. And half-life of 5 years, that's reasonable, right? They say B मुझे लग रहा है answer होगा. Let's talk about C. It says radium alpha emitter. I'm not going to go for alpha. Barium and gamma emitter, yes, with a half-life of only 3 minutes. If you use a radioactive source with such a small half-life, you need to understand that you'll have to replace it after every 3 minutes. So the half-life has to be a reasonable amount of time. If you take cobalt 60, which is the gamma emitter, and a half-life 5 years, so replacement आपकी होगी after 5 years. So I'm going to stick to B. Ultrasound is like a sound wave that is not audible to healthy human ear, which radio frequency contains only ultrasound. Now, your audible frequency range is 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz, right? Which radio frequency contain only ultrasound? Ultrasound देखते हैं जी. This 30 hertz to 30 kilohertz means 30 hertz to 30,000 hertz. Kilo is 1,000, right? But we need to understand that I can hear 30 hertz. This is not ultrasound. Ultra is after 20,000 hertz and infra is below. So here you have infrasonic waves and you have ultrasonic waves after the frequency crosses 20,000 hertz. So A could not be the answer. 300 hertz, I can hear 300 hertz as a normal human being. I can hear this, so this is also not the answer. Then I have 3 kilohertz, which is 3,000 hertz. To 3 megahertz is 3 million hertz. 3 million hertz, I cannot hear, but I can definitely hear 3,000 hertz. Why? Because I have an audibility range of 20,000. So greater than 20,000 hertz is all of greater than 20,000 hertz is ultrasonic. So 30 kilohertz is 30,000 hertz. 30 megahertz is 30 million. So I guess it says only ultrasound. I'm going to stick to D. Which proves that a metal bar is a permanent magnet. It is The true test of a magnet is not attraction, because you see we have items like सॉफ्ट आयरन, सॉफ्ट आयरन चाहे तो नॉर्थ पोल पे लेके जाओ तब भी अट्रैक्ट हो जाएगा, जब साउथ पोल पे लेके जाओ तब भी अट्रैक्ट हो जाएगा. So attraction is not the true test that the object is a magnet. The true test of magnetism is through repulsion. मैं लिख देता हूँ. Now, it attracts no, it attracts no, it conducts electricity, has nothing to do with magnetism. It repels one end of the another magnet. That's the true test. Okay. Okay, 25. The diagram shows a bar magnet and four labeled arrows, which arrow shows the direction of the magnetic field at the point where the arrow is shown. Okay. Not they originate होती है field lines, they go into south. So A तो नहीं हो सकता, A से तो बाहर जाना चाहिए था. C भी नहीं हो सकता because C से magnetic field line should have come into the south pole, right? Let's talk about D. D, not to south जाना. D should have been pointing towards the right, right? But if we talk about D, it's not to south, it's pointing towards the right. My answer is going to be D. Next is 26. A shoe pump becomes, now whenever an object becomes positively charged, it loses an electron. You need to understand. And whenever an object becomes negatively charged, it gains an electron. Just give me a minute. What happens if the shoe becomes charged? The negative electrons are lost by the shoe, gained by the carpet. So I guess I'm going to negative electrons transfer to the carpet. Yes, A is the answer. Not even looking at B, C, and D. A metal conductor is connected between the positive and negative terminals of a battery, which will give the direction of movement of particles that flow in the conductor and their name. Now, what are the particles, sir? What are charges, sir? The actual flow of current is electron flow. But because there have been a lot of discoveries and there have been a lot of theories presented on the point of view of conventional current flow, that is movement from positive to negative. It is a convention, it is a historical convention. सबने उस पर theory base की थी, अब उसको change करते तो सारी theory change करनी पड़ती, तो इसीलिए उसको conventional current flow कहते हैं, because that is not how electricity is transmitted. It is by the movement of electrons. Okay, so negative uh, uh, terminal to positive terminal and electrons. D is my answer. You will always remember that conventional current flow is positive to negative, but it is just a convention. It is just a convention. There were theories based on conventional current when the electron was not discovered. As soon as electron was discovered, all the theories changed. But because by that time there was a lot that had already happened, a lot that had already been discovered, we are still taking conventional current as the actual flow of current, which is negated by theories in recent times. Three identical cells are connected in parallel. Now, when you connect three cells in parallel, तो इनका टोटल आउटपुट वोल्टेज सेम रहता है जो इंडिविजुअल. तो अगर ये 3 वोल्ट के हैं तीनों, तो टोटल ईएमएफ, the EMF is 3 volts. If you connect 3 volt cells one after the other, that is in series, the EMF is going to be 9 volts. Okay. But anyway, 3 identical cells are connected in parallel to a resistor. What is the advantage of using 3 cells in parallel rather than using a single cell? So even if one cell runs out, the circuit still works. The circuit uh, works longer. ये आपको लिख पाएगा नहीं. Each cell produces more energy? No, they produce the same energy. Each cell supplies more charge? No, because they're identical, they supply the same charge. Each cell takes longer to discharge? What do you think? The EMF is greater than that of a single cell? No, the EMF is the same. So I guess C is the answer. Each cell takes longer to discharge. So you have the circuit works for a longer period of time. So has 315 ohm resistors. He connects the resistors together in different arrangements. What is the minimum resistance and what is the maximum resistance of the arrangements that can 15 ohms को हम series में connect करते हैं. चलो. When you connect them in series, the total resistance, the effective resistance is going to be, this is 15, 15, 15. The effective resistance or total resistance is 45 ohms. But if you connect it in parallel, दो ही arrangements है ना, आप series या parallel में arrange कर सकते हैं. So if you connect it in parallel, it's going to be 1 over 15 plus 1 over 15 plus 1 over 15. 1 over 15 plus 1 over 15 plus 1 over 15 gives you 3 over 15. 3 over 15 is 1 over RT. Therefore, RT you reciprocate 15 over 3. The total resistance, if you connect it in parallel, is going to be 5 ohms, right? The maximum resistance could be 45 ohms and the minimum resistance could be 5 ohms. Please work out an answer for this. I guess 29 would be B. Next is question number 30. Just give me 2 minutes of this. Okay, now MCQ number 30. It says the circuit diagram shows a variable resistor. Variable resistor is also called a rheostat. We need to check if the two fixed resistors that I have here, are they connected in series? Yes, sir, they're connected in series, okay? In parallel to the lower section of the potential divider, it says the resistance of R increases. If the resistance of R increases, then the voltage recorded by V2 also increases, because as resistance increases, the more the energy you require to supply a current, right? So V2 also increases, the reading on V2 increases. If the reading on V2 increases, because this fixed resistor is connected in series, the voltage against this decreases, because in a series circuit, voltage is divided. So if this increases, this decreases. Let's see what the answer is. So V1 decreases, C and D could not be the answer. V2 increases because the resistance of the variable resistors increases. So that's going to be B. Kilowatt hour calculations. It says the power consumption of microwave oven is 1500 watts. Whenever you see this, I want you to convert it into kilowatts. And how do you convert it into kilowatts? You divide it by 1000. That's going to be 1.5 kilowatts. The cost of 1 kilowatt hour of energy is 24 cents. So I'll just write this down. This is just a rate. It tells you 1 kilowatt hour of energy costs you 24 cents. Now it says, what is the cost of using the microwave for how many minutes? 10 minutes. And this is minutes. And this is kilowatt hours. So I'll have to convert 10 minutes into hours. You divide, how do you convert this? You divide it by 60. That's 1 over 6 hours, right? Kilowatt hours, that's kilowatts times the hour. So you have 1.5 kilowatts of the oven times the hour, the number of hours taken is 1 over 6. That's going to be 1.5 into 1 over 6. Let me just do this. It is 0.25 kilowatt hour. Now, if 1 kilowatt hour costs you 24 cents, then 0.25 kilowatt hour will cost you X. And 24 into 0.25 is going to be 6 cents is my answer. Next is 32. It says that a coil of wire above a magnet is dropped. So the coil of wire is coming down, right? As the coil falls over, an EMF is induced across the coil. Now you need to understand the Lenz's law says that the pole induced has to be such that it opposes the movement of the coil. So if this is north, there has to be a north here, okay, repulsion, right? It says what does not affect the magnitude. It was not a question Lenz's law method से devise कराया था. It says what does not affect the magnitude of EMF. Changing the number of turns increases. Increase ज़्यादा number of turns कर दोगे तो increase हो जाएगा. आपका EMF induced EMF increase हो जाएगा. कम कर दोगे तो कम हो जाएगा. This does affect. I mean, does not affect वाला business. Then it says changing the height age from which the coil is dropped. So changing the height, मतलब थोड़ा सा ऊपर से डालो या थोड़ा करीब से डालो, it does affect because cutting effect ज़्यादा होगा. If the coil moves in faster, the cutting effect is going to be greater. So it does affect. So B is also not the answer. Changing the direction of the magnet so that the north pole is important. So north pole bottom पे भी हो, south pole ऊपर आ जाए, तो coil के ऊपर जो है वो south pole induce हो जाएगा. That doesn't affect the amplitude of EMF. So I guess my answer is C. 33. The results of an alpha scattering experiment gave evidence for which of the following. Now, alpha scattering experiment से, alpha particle scattering experiment से, हमें ये पता चला था कि the size of the nucleus is very small compared to the size of the atom. The nucleus is dense and small. The nucleus is dense. The nucleus is positively charged. Is dense and positively charged. And there are large empty spaces within the atom. The results of alpha does not help you with nuclear fusion. It did not help you discover radioactive decay. It did not help you with the existence of isotopes. It helped you with determining the size of the nucleus. A nucleus of an isotope of cobalt is represented with 5927. Now, 59 here is your mass number. Mass number is also called the nucleon number. Nucleon number, not neutron number. This is proton number, atomic number, also called the atomic number. Next, it says, what is the composition of the nucleus? The number of protons is definitely 27. So C or D 28. Then number of neutrons. Number of neutrons is mass number minus the proton number. 59 minus 27. 59 minus 27. It's going to give you 32. So you have 32 neutrons in this case. My answer is A, 34 A. Next is 35. The only stable isotope of gold, Au is the symbol of gold, has 79 protons and 118 neutrons. Now, if I ask you to write down the nuclide notation, you write down 79 at the bottom, but at the top is mass number. That's 118 plus 79. That's going to be 197. That's going to be the nuclear notation for gold. How many electrons are there in neutral atom of the isotope? Now, number of electrons equals number of protons. So if I look at the number of protons is 79, the number of electrons has to be 79. 36. A sample of radioactive isotope with a very long half-life is placed next to detector. Sheets of different materials are inserted, मतलब barriers insert करते जा रहे हो one at a time between the radioactive sample and detector. Um, it says, ठीक है जी. The background count rate is subtracted from the readings of the detector and corrected count rates are recorded in the table. अगर दो शीट्स इंसर्ट हुई तो 450 हो गया. फिर एल्यूमिनियम शीट हुई तो काउंट रेट ड्रॉप्स टू 381. An aluminum sheet stops alpha particles and beta particles. Okay, so I'm here at this point. I'm assuming कि beta particle भी है और alpha भी है. चलो, फिर lead sheet किया तो alpha भी रुक गया, beta भी रुक गया and gamma भी रुक गया. Thin paper sheet से I don't think so. 450 है तो random होता है ना, तो 450 से 452 ही रहा. Paper sheet stops alpha particles. I don't think so कि alpha particle अब exist करते हैं. So it's beta particles and gamma radiation only. Why? Because अगर alpha particles exist करते तो thin paper sheet से रुक जाते, count would have gone down significantly. Okay. Next is in a fission reactor, which particle causes a uranium 235 nucleus to form a neutron? Is made to collide with heavy nucleus uranium to break it down to krypton, barium, and three forming neutrons and forms. Right? A lot of heat energy is released. So a fast-moving neutron is made to collide with a heavy nucleus of uranium. 37C. What is the purpose of moderators in nuclear reactors? Now you need to understand there are control rods and there are moderators within a nuclear reactor. Now control rods are usually boron rods. And boron rods क्या करते हैं? जो chain reaction हो रहा है ना, उसमें एक न्यूट्रॉन ने हिट किया, उससे तीन न्यूट्रॉन निकले, फिर हर एक न्यूट्रॉन हिट करेगा तो फिर उसके तीन न्यूट्रॉन निकलेंगे एंड सो ऑन सो फोर्थ, राइट? तो चेन रिएक्शन को रोकने के लिए बोरॉन रॉड यूज करते हैं बिकॉज बोरॉन रॉड्स एब्सॉर्ब न्यूट्रॉन, राइट? And what are moderators? They slow down the neutrons in order to uh, uh, for the chain reaction to continue, so that you can have a longer period of reactions and you can derive more energy from your reaction. But it is so fast that you will not be able to control it. So nuclear fission is an uncontrollable reaction. If you want to control it, you need to put down boron rods and you need to put down moderators, control rods and moderators. So the purpose of moderators is to slow down neutrons in order to continue with the chain reaction so that you can derive a lot of energy. In which region of electromagnetic spectrum does the sun radiate the most energy? Sun is extremely hot, right? So heat is majorly transferred by infrared radiation. Okay, so you make sure you understand that. 40. Four stages of life cycle of a star. It is मैं ये लिख देता हूँ लाइफ साइकिल स्टार. आई हैव सेंट यू अ पिक्चर एज वेल. मैं इसका भी और एक नोट भी बना के भेजता हूँ. सो इट इज first, due to gravity the star collapses inwards. Okay, inwards collapse होता है. That inwards collapse causes a rise in temperature. And then the inward gravitational attraction, you need to understand कि वो gravitational attraction से